Hi, my name is Tanya and welcome to Utility Jane. Today I'm cooking two quick and easy meals to stash in the fridge, and I'm playing around with a gluten-free flatbread, so let's get into it. First, I'm going to start with getting some meat prepped in my pressure cooker. It's a quick and easy way. I love to do this each week when I do my shopping. I pre-cook the meat and it makes getting meals on the table so much faster. I put it in the pressure cooker and it almost treats it like a slow cook. So the meat comes out very tender in a matter of 20 minutes. But today I'm cooking with some of it straight away and the rest I will be putting in my freezer. So to prep this, you could just put it in with some water and put absolutely nothing else in it and pressure cook it as it is. I like to put a few different herbs and spices and some tomato passata in with it and get that cooking, because that sort of is the basis of most of my recipes or the most of the food that I cook. So if I have that flavor already in the meat pre-cooked, then the amount that I have to add to it on top is minimal. Now, while that is cooking, it's already come to the boiling point and I've put it over on the other burner. I'm going to get this other cast iron pot going and chop a heap of vegetables. I'm going to make a chili. I'm going to have that with brown rice. And then later on, I'm going to make a meat pie. So to this, I just need to prep the vegetables. Normally I would have all of these vegetables cut and in my freezer. So that makes it even faster getting it on the table. So I'm adding carrots, capsicums, onion, and then I will add spices, a paprika, some seasoned salt, pepper, some salt, and some sugar. And some Mexican spice, just a chili. Use whichever chili you'd like, or you could use curry. I've just opened, rinsed and drained a can of kidney beans and I put that in there to saute with the oil and spices and the vegetables. I'm just adding garlic, and some cherry tomatoes I had in my freezer from last garden season. Going to get that all mixed around, just letting those tomatoes defrost. Going to add some passata, not the whole bottle, just want a bit of more tomato base. Now I'm going to put the lid on and just sit it aside, get some rice cooking. I use brown rice, so it does take a little bit longer. I've got the pot just sitting there, the meat is cooking, and I'm just going to tidy up my work area, get the dishwasher packed so that I can quickly move on. Now the oven has come up to temperature and I'm going to put the black pot in there and let that slowly tick over while I'm waiting for the meat to finish and the rice to cook. The meat has now finished. Like I said, I only cook it for 20 minutes and it will come out very tender. I've let the pressure off and I'm going to get some of that meat straight in the cast iron pot. Give it a stir. This meal comes together very quickly, and had the meat been cooked and the vegetables been frozen, it would have come together even faster, but this is very fast. I'll get that back in the oven and I'll get my rice strained. Just fluff that up with a fork. I like to rinse it off and out comes the chili. Everything is super hot. It's bubbling away. It smells delicious. I'm going to add a bit more tomato in the form of paste just to thicken up that sauce. If you wanted a runnier sauce, you could have left it as it is. We like things very tomatoey. So I like to add a bit of paste. I'm going to taste test and just make sure that has enough salt, which it doesn't. It's usually the way. I add a bit more salt at the end. Now I'll get it there and have it simmering away, and then I can dish up some rice and some chili beef. So I absolutely love this. I love having this. It's great for leftovers. It only just gets better. Topped with a bit of Greek yogurt. It is delicious. One of my favorite meals. Now you can use mince to do exactly the same thing, or a more square chunk. These are more beef strips. Now I've got a pot. I've got all that meat in a container. Look at the beautiful stock that comes with it when you cook it this way. It is just flavorful. So I'm going to put some in a pot and I'm going to make a meat pie. Now in my previous video I made the pastry, and here I am a few days on and I'm going to use it. It's going to take me not very long to whip up a meat pie that we can have with side of vegetables or salad. I'm just putting some basic ingredients in. Some Worcestershire sauce and some garlic and some parsley. And I think I had some salt, paprika, some pepper. I'm making up a slurry with just some flour, and I'm going to season that with salt and pepper because that's the underlying taste I want. Just quite a plain pie, salt and pepper. And I've got that mixed in with the flour, and I'll just add a little bit of water and make that slurry so it is sitting there ready to go when the meat sauce comes up to boiling. I've got my pastry and I've got some sesame seeds. I love to put sesame seeds on top of pies. So I'm just going to work that pastry out. It is a bit cold. I did get it out of the fridge, but it's still quite cool. So it's going to take a bit of manipulating. It's a bit cracky, so I'm going to just roll it in on itself and get it to come together. Trying to make it that it's an easy circle, that it'll just go straight into the pan. I said in my previous video that I like to have them in the fridge in a disc, and then when you're rolling and it goes out of shape, I just bend those bits up and then roll it back in on itself. Measure against the pan, watching the meat come up to boiling point. Main thing is to have a relatively even thickness all the way through the pastry, because I am going to blind bake it before I put the meat in. Making pies used to scare me, and I just decided one day that I would just make pies non-stop. And now there's not too much that can't be fixed when you're in the middle of a pie in it. You might think that it is a disaster unfolding, but usually it can be fixed. You don't need to buy pastry. It is so easy to whip some up and have it in the fridge. It's just a matter of getting it out, which you would have to if you bought it frozen. You'd have to get it out and defrost it. So I'm just gently working it down because this is gluten-free, so it's a bit more sensitive than a wheat flour pastry. I'm just going to trim off those sides. Now I've got it down to the bottom of the pan. Just a bit of excess. trim those off. We're not looking for perfection, we're looking for a meal. Just put some holes in the base, just so it doesn't rise up too much. And there it is, ready to go in the oven. Meanwhile, I've got my other piece here, which will be the top. I am going to try and get that moving because once I get the slurry in, there will be no time in between. I add the other little pieces and then the lid of the pie can have a beautiful thick crust on it. Just going to try and blend that in using the paper. And it's gonna crack. I'm just going to bring that all back together. I mean, these are the joys of gluten-free. But it comes together fine and rolls out absolutely fine. It's just warming it up and rejoining it all together. There we go. Now the meat has come up to a boil or a simmer, and I'm just going to add the slurry. Just add some of it and then see how thick that comes up. Because I don't measure anything, I just see how that goes, and I end up putting the rest of it in. Just keep stirring that meat and sauce. And once that's okay, I'm getting my pastry rolled out. The base in the oven has finished. Now I'm going to add the meat into the base. This has not taken long at all. Get all that meat out. Don't waste any of it. Now get the lid on, pre-peel both sides and have the paper on there. Add the lid as gracefully as you can and just gently move it over so that the pie is in the center. Just mold that down on top because that filling is warm, so the pastry is going to warm up quickly. So get that cut off. I just seal it as best I can all the way around, and then I'm going to whip up an egg, add a little bit of milk, and I'm going to glaze the top and add the sesame seeds. I love lots of sesame seeds. Now we put some holes in the top and get that straight into the oven. Also, if you hear a dog snoring, he is at my feet. He can never be too far away from me. Now there was a little bit of pastry left. I just treated it the same because I had the egg wash left. I just rolled it out, added some sesame seeds to it, and who can complain about extra pastry? And here it is out of the oven. So good, very delicious. Side salad, vegetables, it's up to you on its own, either way. It is a great meal. I don't think anyone in the family is going to complain about this one. Add some sauce because we are Australian, tomato sauce on a pie. And so good, very delicious. A family-sized pie for not very much. It's a great budget savor. It's beautiful. Now we're going to move on with me experimenting making some flatbread. I've got some gluten-free self-raising flour. I've got a cup of oat flour. I'm using yeast in some milk, some warm milk, and some sugar. I've got some salt in the mix, and I'm doing it sourdough. So I've got some psyllium husk powder, and I'm just going to mix all those dry ingredients. I've got a cup of Greek yogurt, and I'm adding my sourdough. 1 cup sourdough starter. Got a bit of yeast because it is cooler weather, and I just wasn't sure how much that sourdough would keep it soft, but by adding a bit of yeast, it ends up a faster turnaround and just boosts that along. I'm not against using instant yeast, mixing it with the sourdough. It's whatever works with me. We have a busy life, and I just use what I can. And this is an experiment. So I'm putting the rest of my sourdough starter into a clean jar. And I once again tidy up the kitchen while that is there mixing. Add a little bit more flour because it was quite a runny mix, so I thought it needed to have a bit more flour. I'm just playing along, just seeing how it turns out, adding flour as I think it needs it. Because I've added the instant yeast, I'm wanting to use it straight away or sooner than overnight. So I get that into a glass bowl. It's nice and bubbly. I get a cover over it so it can sit and rise for a little while. And this is it after not very long. So I'm going to go with it and just see how this pans out. Just going to scrape the excess mixture off the silicone cover so that I can get on with at least trying a couple. I was very keen to just cook up a couple and see how they go. It's very sticky still, but you know, when you're experimenting, you just want to do it now. But I have since made these and I absolutely love this recipe. I was wanting something that I could use in place of buying bread. We don't use enough bread that warrants me to make a loaf because it wouldn't get eaten. But what I've found with these is that I can have a mix. I can make some one day, have the mix in the fridge and make some the next day, or make the rest of the dough up the next day, and then it keeps in a crock on the bench, the made flatbreads, and they are pretty good. You know, if you find them a little hard, they can be zipped in the microwave for a couple of seconds, but I don't find them too bad. They toast up really good. I love them with an open sandwich. I have breakfast on them, and just in this case, they were good with butter and jam. I did try to cook this on a stainless pan and it was really no good. So you do need cast iron, or I guess if you use non-stick, a non-stick pan. Just toasting it. It's got bubbles coming up in it. I was really, really pleased with how these came out. It's one thing when you're gluten-free to try and have the range of food that being non-gluten-free, it can be difficult, but I really love this recipe. And I have since tweaked it, different things. so that I can basically just use my pizza dough jars. But this is a good basic mix if you are just making it from scratch. No pre-mix jars. So just trying to get a bit of toasted color on it and it cooking through the middle. And I can use them exactly the same as you use bread. They go in the toaster. I can make toasted sandwiches with them. I'm just going to put the rest of the mix into a container and it can go in the fridge. And the consistency changes once it comes out of the fridge. It is definitely like a fermented dough. So there's one cooked. I just sit that in the tea towel and I'm onto it. I can't wait to taste it. So we're eating it hot. We're going to melt the butter and the jam on it, and I was very, very pleased, and I didn't stop at one. I called my daughter out to try them. I was very, very happy with it, the way that they had turned out. Very, very nice. Very happy. And there they are. Soft and pliable and extremely delicious. And obviously, I couldn't stop eating them. And there's a couple made up on the plate. I'm extremely happy with that. Thank you if you have got to this point. Thank you for watching all the way through. I really appreciate it. If you would like to subscribe, welcome. I'd love you to subscribe. If not, I hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.